be here.
Thank you, Megan, for coming on. This is Megan Cain from the Creative Vegetable Garden. I'm going to show your website just so people can see a little bit more about you. And can you say just a little, you have webinars, podcasts, you're an avid gardener and hiker and a minimalist. So you like to, I would imagine, be frugal with what you're using in the garden, right? And your solutions come down to like basically being creative with what you have, which I love. She's got books and courses, she coaches, and she's got these great articles where she features just on one thing, like planting purple vegetables in your garden, which is so specific, or planting garlic in late spring, which I did not know you could do. So that's excellent. And all kinds of articles that are very specific. Remind us again how long you've been doing this for, Megan.
Well, I've been a gardener. This is my 21st year as a gardener, and I've had this business for about 10 years. But I've been a garden educator for about almost since I started gardening. So I've used to work for a nonprofit for a long time and ran kids gardening programs and a youth farm. And I've worked on some CSA farms. So I've done a lot of growing food in the last 21 years.
21 years. And you have your book out is Smart Start Garden Planner. This is probably one of the first things that I would recommend for gardeners, because the downfall is not doing things at the right time. Wouldn't you say that's one of the major mistakes that people make in gardening?
I have the book. I have this book and it's fabulous. I have both of her books and I have 2 of her courses and they're just great.
That's great. But when you say, Megan, that's one of the downfalls is when people try to plant, say, a cold weather plant in the middle of the summer or a summer crop in the middle of cold. When you say that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. A lot of times here in Wisconsin, everybody waits to plant everything until Memorial Day weekend. So, they plant all the cold weather crops as well. But I'd love to hear in the chat, where are people from? Where are you gardening?
Yeah, please put in the chat. And one thing I wanted to create, if you guys will play with me here, is that because we have this free coaching with these free, gardening experts coming on, the way you can pay back is by coming up with a question. Just engaging with us and making this call not, less of Ann and I just talking or the gardening expert talking, but having a question or a comment or something like that. So we've got people from Las Vegas and Milwaukee and Dallas. I know Max is from Pennsylvania. I think we have somebody from New York. Okay.
Frankie's from Detroit.
Oh, yep. Detroit. Yep. New York. Yes, we do have New York. We have Rachel from Boston. Lisa's from Cape Cod. And Elise is going to be moving to New Jersey in June. Oregon. Tandy from Oregon. And Chloe's originally from Oregon, not sure where you are now. And Anne is in Long Beach, California, community garden in a city with a 10 by 10 plot. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's great. That's very helpful. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin. So that's zone 5, a colder zone of the United States. So if you live in Michigan, so I see Michigan, New Jersey, Boston, Cape Cod. Well, Cape Cod might be a little bit different since you're so close to the water. Certainly California is quite a bit different. I would love to garden in California someday, just to experience the magic that is a California garden. So we have a short season here in Wisconsin. Our last frost is usually average last frost is around Mother's Day, and then our average first frost is the first week in October. So it's a pretty short season.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you don't want the magic of no water in California.
Well, so that's true. That's
be
true.
grateful that you have water in Wisconsin. Okay. So I've made you a co-host. If you want to share, did you have slides that you wanted to share today about getting more food out of your garden, gardening year round? This is something from anybody from any garden zone can benefit from. And most of the people, do you want to say in the chat, like, are you a new gardener? Do you find you see yourself as a beginner gardener or intermediate or expert? Like, do you want to share on the chat so that she can get an idea of where you feel like you're at in gardening? Okay, so we have a new gardener. So Anne has a dragon fruit plant. Yay, she has one. She's growing a plant. Good. Great. So if you want to come from the basis of people being some people anyway being new gardeners, that'd be great.
Sure, that'd be great. All right. So I'm going to just share a little bit. I teach a lot of classes. So when Zen was asking me what I wanted to teach, I thought, oh, maybe I'll just take an excerpt from one of my classes. I like to show lots of slides and have lots of pictures. And that's always fun because gardeners are very visual. So I'm going to share my screen. And all right. So I'll just show a few pictures of my garden. So I'm curious, you can put in the chat, I'm curious if you already have a garden, how many months of the year do you usually get food from your garden? Are you harvesting food? It's always interesting to hear, particularly when we're all from different climates. Ooh, Chloe, 10 months.
Wow.
That is great. Year round, Milwaukee, 3 months.
Well, I was harvesting kale later, so.
Yeah, that's great.
That's extended, yeah.
4 months, 5 months. Yeah, so some of this depends on where you live. But like I said, I live 4 to 5 months. Frankie said that they eat the weeds, so that makes it earlier. Yes, my husband likes to go out and eat dandelion leaves. And mostly herbs year round and tomatoes in summer. Great, that's very helpful. So I live in Wisconsin, like I said, a short season. Here's me in my garden harvesting kale, and this is December, about December 10th, a couple of years ago. So I generally harvest food from my garden about 9 months of the year. And I don't have a greenhouse, a heated greenhouse or anything super fancy. But I do like to try to extend the season, especially since I live in a short season area. So I'll show just a couple pictures. This is the 1 year that I got food from my garden in February. So this was February 27th. I don't generally get food in February, but this was a very warm year. It was 2017. But pretty much every year I'm harvesting spinach. So this is spinach from the previous season. Fall planted spinach survives the winter, even in Wisconsin zone 5, and I'm starting to harvest it again. It starts to regrow in the spring. And then April, depending on the year, I do have some low tunnels, and so you can do a little season extension sometimes in April. It depends how warm March is, March and early April, but sometimes I'm doing my first harvest around April 20th.
And so when did you plant those? The ones that you were
I usually plant about March 10th.
So you direct sow the seeds in the ground, March 10th?
I do, yeah, but they're either in a cold frame or a low tunnel. And I have a picture to show you what that looks like. And then I get, like most people, I get food in June, July, August, September, October. We usually get our first frost right around usually sometime in the first week in October. So yeah, that's me in my front yard garden. And then I like to have a pretty robust fall garden. Even though it's getting cold in Wisconsin, there's still a lot of things you can grow. So this is an example of my garden in October. I actually take a walk with a friend every week, and that often in October I text her and say, what do you want from the garden? I have this and this and this and this. And she always says, how do you have so many things still in your garden? It's getting so cold. So you can see here in the back, I have my cold frame. And then I actually just use a little bit of row cover, which helps keep things a little bit warmer.
Okay, and then so those row covers, do you need to go out every morning and uncover them and put them out, cover them up again every night, or do you leave it on all day? How do you?
Yeah, you just leave it on all the time. This is a more, I would say, more advanced technique. So if you're a beginning gardener, I don't think I'd worry about row cover just yet. There's a lot of other things to learn before you do row cover. But yeah, the sun gets through, the water gets through. You never have to take it off in the fall. In the spring, you have to take it off if you're growing something that flowers and needs to be pollinated. So I also use it in the spring. I had it covering some of my spring crops, but something like kale, you could leave it on the entire season.
And did you buy special like hoops that from just the hardware store or whatever to, did you have to
Yeah,
make
you
them or
can
did you
buy
buy them?
hoops, you can use PVC. Sometimes I don't use any hoops at all. I just throw it over the bed. So yeah, that's like I said, that's a little bit more of an advanced technique.
Okay.
And then in November, this is my harvest from November 11th, which again in Wisconsin is pretty cold, but I have turnips and black radishes, carrots, daikon radishes, kale, some spinach, mustard, and arugula. So all things that are very cold hardy.
That is beautiful. And that really could be a whole dinner unto itself. Like you just, you stir fry or spice or roast those up. You don't need anything else.
Yeah, and actually the daikon radishes store very well. We're just eating the last of them. My husband pickled some and we put them on our salad tonight. So we had a spring salad from the garden with radishes from last year's garden, which was pretty fun. So it was a nice merging of the two seasons.
So you hang on a second. So you harvested this in November. It looks like some of these crops also could have been harvested in like April.
Yeah, April to May. Yeah, I just harvested spinach and arugula this morning. And then I have turnips. They're not quite ready to harvest yet. Carrots, it's too early. They take a while to grow. And I actually just harvested some smaller radishes, more the ones you usually see in spring, the pink ones or purple ones.
But I just want to point out, because I did not know this first starting in gardening, that you can actually get 2 seasons out of your garden, two crops of the same types of vegetables practically every year. Is that correct?
Yeah, and maybe I could come back near the end of the summer and we could talk about planting a fall garden. In Madison, I plant, the problem is you can't wait until fall because it's too late.
Right.
Now, California is and somebody said they're from Texas. That's a completely different bioregion that I'm not that familiar with, and you plant things at very different times than I plant things. So I don't know that I can speak super specifically to California and Texas, but everybody else who's in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Massachusetts and Michigan, we all have a very similar gardening season. Even yours might be a little bit longer, mine might be a little bit shorter, but we live in a temperate zone where we have winter, we have 4 seasons.
So Megan, when you say that if fall is too late for the fall garden, you're saying what, August that you start?
Yeah, I generally, these carrots I planted by mid-July. After that, it starts to get too late. What's happening as we move towards fall is the days are getting shorter, so plant growth slows down. So you have to build in some extra time. So if you wait until fall, it's too late. There's not enough daylight for those of us who live in the northern part of the country.
Okay. But those crops that you plant in July and they come to fruition and you can harvest them in November, are some of these crops, like the kale, for instance, some of the same ones that you'll also then harvest in February, like through the winter? Will they?
So in where I live, kale will not survive the winter, even under cover, unless it's a very mild winter. Spinach will survive, but I don't generally harvest from my garden from mid-December, January, February. There's not much happening. I live in a place that gets extremely cold, so most of this stuff is not going to be able to survive.
Okay.
Even under cover, because it gets below 0. So let's see. I have another picture. So November 19th, this is right before Thanksgiving. This is my Thanksgiving harvest. I like to have as much of my own food as possible for Thanksgiving. And then, so December 5th, so this is related to your question. In Madison, we often get snow somewhere around mid-December. It's also when the ground starts to freeze. And so I generally do my last harvest somewhere in the first week in December. I'm getting things out of the ground that I think potentially won't survive the winter. So if the ground freezes on carrots, they just turn to mush. So it already snowed, but I'm harvesting carrots. And then this is another year. This is 2 years ago. We were forecasted to have a snowstorm. So I went out and I cleared a lot of things out of the garden. So I have black radishes, daikon radishes, a bunch of cilantro, broccoli rabe, salad turnips, more daikons, and then a bunch of hardy winter greens. So most of this won't survive once it starts to get really, really cold. Now, if you live in a milder area, if you lived in Oregon, this stuff would all survive. If you lived maybe even in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, because you're warmer than where I am, it depends on the winter. Some things might survive. But in general, I'm getting most of the stuff out in a colder climate in the winter.
Okay.
And then here's that same year, it snowed, and then I had a cold frame. So this is an example of a cold frame. It's basically a bed with a lid on top of it that just keeps things a little bit warmer. And you can see I'm opening it up and it snowed outside, but it still looks like fall inside. Now things potentially still freeze in here, but they warm up during the day when it's sunny. So then it keeps things, even in my cold frame, I actually left some things this winter to see, well, if it's a mild winter thing, some things might survive in the cold frame, but we had a cold snap a couple times and everything in there died except for the spinach.
Now, is that a translucent or clear? Is that somewhat clear, or is it totally
It is clear. It's totally clear. It looks like it just has some snow or ice on it. So
right. Okay. Just checking. Now, I wanted to make sure to get Anne's question. We had a Wisconsin farmer on who said that we're 2 weeks behind this year. This is specific to your region. What are your thoughts on that? Has it been colder than usual, wetter and colder than usual this year?
It's been colder, but then we had 3 days of 90 degrees, and I feel like my things have caught up.
Okay.
So I feel like
we just had that here too.
Madison, we're caught up.
Carolina. Yeah. We just
so
yeah, those warm days that we had, Megan, were mean.
I know. Yeah, it was nice. We had 4 days of 90s, which is very unusual here in Wisconsin in May. So, okay. So then here's another picture. So this is what I was talking about before. This is a low tunnel over on the right. So these are advanced techniques. So I want to talk about a few things that are pretty easy to do, and doing a fall garden is one of those. And so maybe we could talk about that later in the season. This is a low tunnel. It has greenhouse plastic. It's basically just a lid that I can open and close. And then a cold frame also is a more flat lid that you can open and close. And then I use some row cover, which only keeps things going a little bit longer. It's not as warm as a cold frame or a low tunnel.
So what is the material on the cold frame? Is that a like 6 mil plastic or?
Yeah. Well, on the low tunnel?
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah, it's a 6 mil plastic, just a greenhouse plastic that you can order. I ordered it from Johnny's Seeds. They have different lengths that you can order.
Yeah, it's not that expensive.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. It lasts. I pack it up after the winter and put it away for the summer, so then it lasts even longer.
And do you have the directions for how to build that low tunnel on your website, or do you help people when you're coaching them, or where did you get that?
Yeah, I have. I believe I can Google it, or maybe Zen or Ann, you can Google it. I often Google creative vegetable gardener, and you could build a low tunnel. I think I have a post with a video, actually.
Okay.
I have so many articles, sometimes I lose track of exactly what I have.
But the words are to look for are low tunnel, how to make a low tunnel.
Yeah. And there's lots of information online. So I'm the creative vegetable gardener. My mission is always to try to inspire people to try some new things and have more fun in your garden. So if you're a new gardener, everything's going to be new. So that's great. That's one of the most fun things. If you've been gardening a while, like I have, some of us tend to get stuck in a rut, and we do some of the same things over and over again. So I like to encourage people to experiment. That's a great way to learn in the garden. So here's a picture of my front yard garden in August.
Wow.
A beautiful month in the vegetable garden. It looks nothing like this right now. Things are still growing. And then I have a perennial garden between the street. So in this photo, you can see in the back is the street. Since I have a backyard or a front yard garden, it's right up against the street. So I planted a buffer. So we have a perennial garden between the street and the vegetable garden, which offers a lot of color, a lot of habitat for insects.
It makes your neighbors happy that you've got flowers out front rather than the vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah, they like both actually. We have a very friendly neighborhood. A lot of people love our garden, always come by and talk to us. There's another picture so you can see the veggie garden a little bit better.
That's great.
And a few more harvest.
There's your herb spiral that you just put out an article about. You should definitely put that out on our website.
Yeah, I have an
so I have, if I can interject for a moment, I just want to make sure we don't miss people's questions here.
Yeah.
So somebody asked, how successful is it to plant replanting from growing like cutoffs, like when you cut off the celery or the carrot or, you know, cabbage or bok choy or whatever, and replanting the base of that plant? Does that work well?
Yeah, I know that's what some of the popular like Pinterest things I see. I've never tried that outside the vegetable garden. I would recommend starting from either seeds or new plants. Yeah.
Do you just think that the root base is stronger? I've seen that when I did that with like leeks or onions or celery, you just don't get as big of a plant. I mean, you get something, it's just not a very big plant.
Yeah, sometimes you don't get a big of a plant. It depends what it is. There's some things that flower in the second year. So there's things that are biennial. So you could, to me, it makes more sense if you're going to plant celery, just buy some celery plants or start some seeds. If you're going to plant, cabbage really only produces one head. So I would just buy a cabbage seedling and plant the seedling. Yeah. So certainly you could experiment in the garden. I've never tried that. So I can't speak from experience, but I would recommend, just planting seeds or plants.
Okay. And Lisa's got a question.
Yeah.
You can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Hi, Zen. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Thank you. I was just wondering, that's a very large garden. What do you do with all that produce? Because, it tends to grow. There's like a major point where it starts to peak and you get so much of it. And do you give it away? Do you put things up? Or like, how do you keep up with all that without not ending up tossing it in the compost?
Yeah, that's a great question and a very common question. There's only my husband and I just got this question, the same question recently at a class that I was teaching. And I said, we eat a massive amount of vegetables. As part of it, we just eat a ton of vegetables. I give some away. I just had a friend come over today and I gave her a big bag of salad, and my mother-in-law was here this weekend. I gave her a bag of salad, but we eat a lot of it and we put a lot away for the winter. So I'm getting to the end of what I have from last year's garden, but I have garlic, I have onions, I have frozen tomatoes, I have frozen salsa, I have frozen peppers, I have a chimichurri sauce. So I focus on, then that's actually my other book is Super Easy Food Preserving. I focus on growing things that I can easily preserve for the winter. I actually don't really like canning. I know a lot of people love it, but for me, it's too much work. So I do store things in my basement, store things in my fridge, like the daikon radishes that we just finished up. They've been in my fridge since November. And then I have a chest freezer, so I freeze a lot of stuff.
How do you keep onions for a whole winter?
Well, you have to grow storage onions. That's the first step. And then I just keep them in my basement. I have it's like a cold closet. It's not a root cellar, but my basement is on the cool side. It's not finished. We don't really heat it. We don't hang out down there in the winter. So a colder storage area, and you have to grow storage onions. Those are the two biggest.
Yeah, there's long day and short day, so you have to grow for your region.
Yeah,
and I never understood us were long day when we have the shorter season, and it confuses me.
Yeah. If you live in the northern part of the United States, you have to grow long day onions. If you there's like intermediate day onions for the middle of the United States, and then short day onions for the South. So it's all about how long your days are around the summer solstice. We have
And that's
long
why we
days.
say that this is a learning process. And I encourage people not to make a decision that you do not have a green thumb and you just should not be gardening, because there's so much to learn all along the way. And even very experienced gardeners are still learning. And I just really don't want people to decide, oh, I just can't grow food, I don't have a green thumb. We all have thumbs. We just need to get them in the dirt. Right?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Maybe
that's a good point. I usually recommend that people try it, give themselves 2 to 3 years before you get over some of the beginning mistakes and get over the hump. Because there is a lot to learn. A lot of people, I think, simplify. Oh, you just stick plants and seeds in the ground and they grow. Yeah, that's true, but there's a lot to learn around gardening. But once you learn and you get over that hump, today I was harvesting lettuce and radishes out of my garden, and I just thought, this is such a miraculous process that I planted these seeds, and now I'm going out, and I've been doing it for 21 years, and still it's a thrill every single time that I'm harvesting.
It's so
something.
fun to see. This is my first time growing, well, not first time growing corn, but first time growing as much corn as we are. We're doing a Three Sisters garden, and to see the corn coming up and the squash coming up, and knowing that if the corn gets a little bit higher, then I can plant my beans, and just like that whole excitement around something coming up. It's great. Lisa, you had another question? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I know a little bit about regenerative gardening, but I was just at our local farmers market, and one of the farmers said they actually bought the land to do regenerative farming. And I'm thinking that, you know, you're not just stripping the land of everything, you're giving back to the land. But can you just give any feedback on what that process is? And
yeah, I mean, regenerative farming is definitely different than vegetable gardening. I don't, what was the documentary about the folks in California that had
The Biggest Little Farm.
Yeah, The Biggest Little Farm. So that's a great documentary if you want to learn more about regenerative farming. That's certainly on a large scale. That's a little bit more difficult to do on a home scale. But what I really focus on is my soil health. You can't really have a good garden without good soil. So I try to take care of my soil, make sure I'm building up my soil. I mulch all my bare soil. So I try not to have a lot of bare soil in my garden because it can blow away and erode.
And do you mulch with wood chips or hay?
I mulch with wood chips in the aisles and hay or straw on the garden beds.
Hay or straw. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could use leaves or grass clippings. I also plant a lot of flowers. So I look at my property as an ecosystem. So it's not just my vegetable garden. I also have trees and shrubs and perennial flowers and annual flowers. So I'm trying to think of the whole property as a system. So I want to bring in beneficial insects. There's other animals that live there, sometimes that bug my garden. So I think for me, I'm an organic gardener. I don't spray chemicals. Another common question people ask me is, well, what about when you have pests that are hurting your vegetables? And the tactic that I take is I research the pest, I learn about it, I learn the best way to control it. And so I think those are some of the tenets of really, how do you steward the land that you're gardening, right? I'm not spraying chemicals. I'm looking at it as an ecosystem. I'm planting flowers, I'm planting trees, I'm planting shrubs. I'm really trying to care for the land.
Yeah. Somebody asked curious about chemicals getting into the plants from the sun with covering them. I don't understand that. Do you mean the plastic cover? Are you concerned about chemicals getting through the plastic cover to your plants? She said, because that's Chloe. So are there products that you would recommend? Chloe, can you
She said chemtrails. She was talking about chemtrails too.
Oh, okay. Well, we really can't do much about that. I mean, unless you want to do a low tunnel for everything. You could do low tunnels for everything or grow in a greenhouse, right? If you're concerned about chemtrails.
Yeah.
Did we lose Megan?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with chemtrails to really, I mean, there's all kinds of air pollution out there.
But having a low tunnel coverage thing or growing in a greenhouse would prevent that type of stuff.
About
hemp. Have you grown? It doesn't look like you've grown industrial hemp. No. and worm casings.
Yeah, you can use worm castings for, they're kind of like a compost. So if you had a worm bin, you could harvest the castings and add them to your beds. You can also buy worm castings. I have a regular compost bin, not a worm bin. So I just use the compost from my regular compost bin. But yeah, that's a great thing to
And if you want to know more about composting, we did cover that last week with Will Allen, and Ann did a great summary of that call. It should be an article up on our website today. So we'll get to that next. But Chloe was talking about the material that you use to cover it. So do you worry about the plastic in the cold frame or in the low tunnel, like getting into the plants at all? I wouldn't think so. It's not touching them, right?
Yeah, it's generally not touching them. So I don't worry too much about it.
Okay. All right. And okay, is anybody else? It's 9:04. We asked you to be here with us till 9. So you've been generous with going over a little bit time. Does anybody else have any last burning questions for her? I will show everybody your website one more time so they can, if they want to follow up, you can work with Megan. She does speaking and teaching. You can see all her topics here. Garden coaching, strategic project management.
Oh yeah, I have 2 businesses actually. Probably the best way to stay in contact with me is when you go to my website, you'll there'll be a pop-up and you can sign up for my email list. I send out an email every Sunday at 7 a.m. Central Time with articles and videos and what's happening in my garden. So you're welcome to do that, or just go to my website and take a look around. But yeah, we could talk about gardening for hours and hours and hours. There's so
Well,
much
Megan,
to talk
I'm kind of the same as you. As sometimes I just look at a little tiny seed in my hand and I'm just amazed at what it turns into.
I know, it's really a beautiful process to be a part of, I think.
And I think I have to get that super easy food preserving book, because you sound like my kind of person, like just minimal prep.
Yeah,
like
simple.
I saw on Facebook that these people saying they just took their whole tomato, big juicy tomatoes, and just froze them whole. And then later on in the middle of the winter, they would just run warm water over the frozen tomato, peel off the peel, and then stick that in the pot to make their tomato sauce. I was like, I can do that. I don't have to can right now. I only had like 2 bags of tomatoes, to put up. My kids eat it all. So, so that's what I did. So I still have like 2 or 3 tomatoes left to, put into some soup or something like that. But that was super easy. I love those easy type of ideas. So yeah.
So because of you, Megan, I ended up buying a 21 cubic foot freezer. Thank you.
All right.
And then I did too, because Anne inspired me too. So it passes on people affected by what you do that you have no idea.
That's great. Yeah, there's nothing quite like eating your own produce from the previous year's garden in the winter. It really makes me feel like.
Well, the nice thing is because tomatoes are coming in at all different times, and sometimes there's so much. I just had bags and bags and bags. Well, one thing I did learn, I'm not sure if it was from you or from somebody else, was I didn't core them first. And so when they defrosted, that was kind of a pain. So that's the one thing I'll do this year is core them before I freeze them. But then
to take the seeds out and the core. Okay.
And then I just canned up jars and jars of tomato sauce. So
that's great. Well, thank you. We can stay, if anybody wants to stay on longer and talk more about what's going on in your garden, we are here. We will make ourselves available till 9:30, but we wanted to honor Megan and her donation of her time with us just till 9 o'clock. So thank you, Megan, for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks for having me. Happy gardening. It's a great time of year. And yeah, hopefully I'll be back and we'll chat more some other time this season.
We will. Very inspiring. Thank you for the pictures on how to get more food in your garden and those examples. They're very, very inspiring.
Well, the one good thing is she's got a blog on, she actually will write about mistakes I've made. So it's another great thing that, she's been doing this for so long. You never are finished learning about how to garden.
No, that's one of the things I love about learning or love about gardening is that there's always something to learn, even after 21 years. So it's a rich hobby in that way.
Yes. And one that you can give away. You're giving away food all the time once it's growing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
You're like a food fairy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you,
for having
Megan.
me.
All right.
Take
Bye.
care. All right, great. So does anybody else have any other questions or any other topics that you want to talk about? Anne, was there anything on the website that you wanted to point out to people that's new this week?
Well, I put that how much space you need chart up there.
Okay, let me pull that up so we can
And
show.
I took some pictures of my garden today. If I could show people the different ways I'm starting to grow some food.
Sure, let me just show them this link first because I want people to know where to go. So here's the website. You guys can see my screen, right? And under resources, links, right? It's under links.
Yes, and if you go down.
This is a very valuable section. So first you want to know your plant hardiness zone, right? And like what zone 7, she was in 5, I'm in zone 7. Your planting schedule, you can get one of those from Urban Farmer. That's a great resource.
That's a really good website, by the way.
And we've got Time to Sow Gardener's Guide, excellent website, how to buy topsoil, compost, or mulch in bulk. These are from Anne. Anne's been gardening for years now, so she's been gathering these resources. And so this one is new, the how much space do I need to grow food? Excuse me,
Oh.
is that it?
No, hold on. I will pull up the link.
The link didn't work? Okay. How do I go back here? Wait a second.
And then right below that link was, if you go back, right below that is me, I put Megan's site up there.
Yeah, Creative Gardener. Okay, so this link is not working right now? The how much space do I need to grow food?
Yes, I'm
Is
sending
it
it.
the
to you. I'm
image?
sending it to you right now.
Maybe I need to click. Oh, here it is. Okay, so yeah, you have to click on the image right now. So you will fix that. But if you click on the image, this is a great chart that shows you, for instance, if you want to grow, let's just pick broccoli, amount needed for one adult fresh use is 8 pounds. So that would be like for the summer growing season, right? Like, or it's early spring when you're growing it, you would want 8 pounds of broccoli for one adult. That's 20 feet that you would need of a row. And the amount needed for a family of 4 would be 25 pounds. And that would be 60 feet of in your garden.
Oh,
The
that's
amount needed for one adult to process, like through the winter, would be 12 pounds. And that would be 30 feet. So 30 feet plus, well, and then here for family of 4, 35 and 90. So, you know, that just shows you how many feet you need to grow at that much food to feed your family. And spacing between the rows, 21 inches. Yield per 100 feet of a row is 60 pounds. And yield per 100 feet square feet, 34 pounds. So this just gives you an idea of, you know, when people start to wonder how much food can I grow and how much space do I need to feed my family. And keeping in mind that these are in seasons, right? Once your broccoli is done, you could then be planting something else. You could be planting spinach, right? Or lettuce or, you know, kale or something like that. So don't think that just that square footage is only, you know, it's going to be taken up for the whole year with that one crop. So this is just a useful chart. So we just put this up. Anything else you want to say about this, Anne?
No, it was a great comment though about reusing your space. Also, I will actually be posting, I'm going to try to find some of those comprehensive companion planting guides and putting them up there, because you can plant a lot of things. Like I have a picture of my strawberry bed, but asparagus grows very well with, and so I have a big bed that's all perennial crops. So I have a lot of cabbage and broccoli coming up right now, and I will be replanting that with a later season crop.
So you combine the strawberries and the asparagus in one bed?
Yes, they grow very well together, and they're both perennial crops.
Yeah, I know. We grow both of them, but we didn't know to put them in one bed.
So, and I just had to throw, they're flowering like crazy right now, and I'm getting little fruit. So I just went out there, and it was very hard to try to get the bird netting over the asparagus that's coming up, but I know they say grow enough to share, but I just don't really want to share my strawberries.
Yeah.
I don't
And
have.
keep in mind,
Easy.
they take years. Strawberries takes at least 2 years, and asparagus can take up to 7 years.
Wow.
So I know I have a gardening friend. She's like, I put that asparagus in there a couple years ago and it's not doing anything. So I think I'm going to clear it out and plant something else. And I'm like, no,
No.
just wait. It's coming.
So I got a couple dinners of asparagus this year, and I planted the crowns last year. But
Oh.
every year it's going to get better and better. So I'm just going to I had a couple dinners, and I'm just going to let them all go to fern and let them all do their thing. And it looks like a little forest. But
Yes, I have some that are ferning, but I only got like 4 asparagus sprouts that came up and in very random parts of my garden. I don't know who planted what where, but I've got like different places. And one thing about asparagus is you have to soak the seeds ahead of time. So make sure to check your seed packets. Beans too, you have to soak them overnight before you plant them. So just read the instructions. I know my son was saying that he didn't know how to do this and he didn't know that. And I remembered, do you guys remember, was her name Judge Judy? Not Judge Judy, but she was somebody like Judge, like Dr. Laura, I think her name was. She was very judgmental, like.
oh yes, Dr. Laura.
Yeah, but I remember so some things I couldn't stand that she said, but so there were some things that I thought, hey, she's making sense there. What she said was, if you know how to read, you can cook. And it's the same thing with gardening. If you know how to read, you can garden. You just need to follow the directions, right? On the seed packet or in the, whatever that is, YouTube. It's really like, it's not some big mystery. There are people who have done this before us, right? We're not figuring out for the very first time. We just need to follow the directions.
Oh, my father used to always say this, Annie, when all else fails, read the directions.
Yeah.
And do you have pictures of your garden you were going to show?
I'll show some pictures that I took some pictures today just to give people an idea.
You showed us some a couple weeks ago. They were beautiful.
Yeah, you did. You shared some that were gorgeous.
So this was a bed that I built last year, and these are some seedlings that I started of lettuce, and some of them didn't come up, so I've replanted them with some onions that I had. Now this is an example of some container gardening. I have a tomato. This is called a Geranium kiss tomato. It's a determinate tomato, so it's not going to go crazy. So I'm planting that. Okay, I wanted to show everybody. Oops. So see the chits on, these are called chits on the potatoes. I'll be going out and I'm planting those. And this picture is a potato plant I planted 3 weeks ago. From potatoes from my kitchen. I didn't go buy them. They were just going bad in my kitchen. And I cut them up. You just have to cut up around this little eye and stick it in the dirt. And this is another bed. I threw a bunch of, there was a little neighborhood boy who came over and he said something about potatoes. And so I ran in the kitchen. I grabbed potatoes and told him he'd be taking some potatoes home to his family this late summer.
That's great.
And this was my herb garden that I built out of the bricks, and it's starting to come up nicely. See my no-mow May garden, my no-mow May yard.
That's a beautiful herb garden.
Yeah, and so this I took today. All this lettuce is coming up nicely, and you can see the onions that I planted in the back here because they were some of these seeds were 3 years old. So I was just kind of doing a test. One or two rows didn't come up. So I just stuck something else in there. So this was, Zen was showing how she did her trellis. And this is just a PVC pipe I got at Menards and a garden stake. And this is a conduit, electrical conduit.
And I have to say that this way is better than the way I did it. I did it with wood because that's just what we had laying around. I like to use the resources we had, but the way Anne's doing it is better because the metal that goes into the ground won't rot like the wood that I used.
Yeah, but it'll last you it'll be great for you this year.
Yeah, but people, I hate doing projects over again, but I just want people to see. So those are called fence posts, right?
Yeah, so I went out, these are 10-foot posts.
Okay.
So I went out and bought those. A lot of my stakes that I have, I've got at Facebook or garage sales. But so as you can see here, this I planted last weekend, so everything doesn't look like much, but there is, I have tomato twine that's going up, and I have all my tomatoes, so I can plant your tomatoes much closer. And you just have to be sure to prune them as they're going up. And then right here, you can see I have these little plastic clips that attach to the string, and then you attach it to the tomato, so they just keep growing up.
Where do you get your little plastic?
I think I just got them on Amazon. Just look up tomato clips.
Okay.
And then I got plastic garden stakes. I actually I have an old tent downstairs, and I look at everything now. How can I reuse this in the garden? Well, I'm not using my tent anymore. I'm past the I want to go camping phase. So I went down there and rummaged through and found all my tent stakes, and I've used them out here to keep the string down.
So you don't tie the string just around the tomato plant. The string is attached to something else, some type of stake in the ground?
Yeah, there's a stake in the ground, which I put in, I put it in before I do the tomato. And then I'll plant the tomato in, and then I clip it up.
Well, I didn't do that. So I can do it after, right?
Oh, yeah. Just don't
Okay.
stick it in where the root of the tomato is. And this was a
Okay.
little bed that I started 3 weeks ago. These are all different kinds of mustards. And this is also a bed I built out of those bricks that I got for free.
Nice.
You guys, you can get so much stuff for your garden for free. This, what I wanted to show this was they had those big blocks of coconut core mulch at Costco.
Yep.
Thought I'd do a test. And I got two packages of coconut core mulch. These are all my peppers that I planted. I will not buy this again.
Why?
It's just, I don't like the texture. I'm not sure how it's going to decompose. I would rather have regular coconut core that's much softer that they use for making soil. They use that instead of peat.
Okay.
So they're telling people to start using coconut core instead of peat, because the peat bogs are becoming depleted.
Right.
But this was not real fun to lay down. So I'm not sure I will be doing
Yeah,
that.
my husband had to soak the coconut core in a wheelbarrow in water so it absorbed the water, and then expand it, and we put it around the tomato plants. And I think it helps to keep the weeds away, and it helps to absorb the water, because tomato plants don't want too much water.
Yeah, I soaked
So-
mine in the wheelbarrow too, but it didn't expand like I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I still need to get wood chips, but chip drop has not come to us yet. And at the time when I signed up, I didn't have my credit card around to give them a $20 tip. So I think we're like last on the list, because it looks like we're not being generous. So I would encourage people to give the $20 tip.
Well, another thing that you can do is if you end up having a storm in your area, you'll see the city, you might be seeing the city. Like today, we had 2 trucks because people cut down trees that they were wood chipping, and I got 2 loads delivered that way.
I don't know how you're like a magnet for wood chips. I don't have any wood chips yet.
Well, I didn't ask them today because I still have another pile. I've been creating huge berms. The nice thing about getting wood chips is if you can have a place where you can store them, in a couple of years, you're going to have some awesome soil. Because the middle of that pile is going to start heating up. It's going to start having all the microorganisms in there. And I literally had smoke coming out of one of my wood chip piles.
Wow. All right. I just want to share this about potatoes. Somebody asked about potatoes. So you can grow potatoes on top of clay soil just with straw on top. That's what's going on here. My kids are digging up the potatoes, and but you can
Wow.
see they are kind of small. Some of them are kind of small. And I think that's because we didn't water enough, or we didn't put enough straw. But it was like better than an Easter egg hunt, you know? So you can see some of them are pretty small here. But one thing I learned that we didn't do, I think, enough was, once you can see the potato plants are like, basically they look dead. So you harvest, when the leaves start turning yellow and the plant dries out, and you can leave them a little longer if you want to. But what we didn't do is we didn't water enough, like when it was dry. And we also, when you start seeing the green come up, you want to cover that with more straw, right? Like you want to keep adding straw to it. And we just sort of forgot about it after a while. So I don't think the potatoes got big enough because we didn't have tons of straw in there. So that was just.
I had a lot of
of.
small potatoes last year, and I just set them to the side, and then I just roasted them with something in the oven with onions and stuff.
Oh
in the
yeah,
oven.
we cooked them, the little ones, we put them in soups and we cooked them and all that stuff. But yeah, you can cook. And so that was, and I did that on top of straw because potatoes like loamy soil, you know, like they want to, just like sweet potatoes, they need to be able to send their roots out and grow. And so if you have clay soil, it's not great for sweet potatoes and potatoes. You've got to supplement the soil, or just you can grow regular potatoes with straw on top. Yeah.
No, but now your soil's going to be better because you have the.
Oh yeah. So so in that patch this year, we planted probably 300 heads of garlic. So we have garlic out the wazoo now.
Good.
Yeah,
And
so
I've
excited.
been reading a lot of articles lately that it's not too late to plant garlic. If you forgot to do it in the fall, you can get them
Yeah,
in now.
Megan just put an article up saying you can plant garlic in the spring. You don't want to wait too long though, but and it won't be as big as other garlic, but that's okay. I mean, you're just chopping it up and put it in pasta anyway, you know. So I don't care. I don't care if the garlic's not huge, you know.
It sure is fun though to pull out a great big monster bulb of garlic.
Yes.
And what do you do with your big bounty? You have a big garden. I don't know if you have a big family.
Me or Anne?
Anne, I don't know what your
Oh,
garden
Anne.
looks like, but your garden looked quite big. So how do you deal with all the
Well,
produce?
last year I had a monster, and I'm probably going to have it this year because I planted too many. Jalapenos.
Hmm.
I had a huge basket of jalapenos. So I literally was walking around the neighborhood, knocking on people's doors, saying, "Do you like spicy food?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "Here, take some jalapenos." And this guy took like 2 jalapenos. I go, "No, take some more." But I do a lot of canning. I'll have to show pictures of I've sent Zen pictures of she's seen my kitchen. It's practically nothing but tomatoes.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So we do a lot of canning, and I do a lot of freezing like Megan taught me, and a lot of giving food away. So
You do freeze a lot of it though.
yeah, well, like I was talking earlier, you know, all these tomatoes were coming in at different times. I didn't really have enough to do a batch. And so I probably had 10 to 15 huge bags of tomatoes in my freezer. And then Michelle, my friend Michelle, who has a garden in she's built a big garden in her backyard, was freezing them. And then she just brought them all over to my house. And we just spent the entire day making tomato sauce, which I use. You know, whenever I make soups, I'll put 2 quarts of tomato sauce in the soups, and it's just delicious. And
I think that's the way it should be, is, you know, especially women. I mean, we want the men to come in there too, but getting in the kitchen with other people, chatting, you know, and canning or preserving or whatever. I had a lot of fun with my sons. We had probably, I don't know, maybe 20 pickles or something, like not a huge batch of pickles, but of cucumbers, but we're like, let's try to make pickles. So I found a recipe. It was in I think Mary Jane Farms magazine, Anne, that you gave me, that subscription. That is a great present, by the way, for anybody who's a friend of yours that wants to garden, is like Mary Jane Farms magazine. And right out of that magazine was a recipe for quick pickling. And we'll talk more about this, you know, late summer and early fall when we've got things to preserve and all that. We'll have more coaching on that. But you just basically put vinegar in, and I think it was a little, I don't know if it was sugar or salt and some dill and maybe some garlic or peppers. And you just screw it on and leave it. I think you leave it on the counter for, I don't know, 6 days, and then you can move it to the fridge, and then you've got pickles.
My brother, who's 74,
Easy.
loves to make refrigerator pickles. I had a terrible crop of cucumbers last year, and I'm hoping this year I'm trying to baby them along. So
But that's like a put your toe in, just get started, and kids love them. And, you know, they went really fast. You can't keep those type of pickles for months though. You have to eat them within like a month or so. But when you have 3 teenage sons and a husband who's 6'2", that's not a problem.
I've been to Zen's house. Those kids are like bottomless pits.
Yeah. So
Her son Ben was making this dish when I was there, and it was like this big bowl, and he was just filling it up, and I was just standing in the
For
kitchen.
the whole family, like it would feed a whole, like a party, when you have 12 people over, that type of side and stout, that's what he eats for lunch, because he's an organic, whole food, plant-based diet person. So, yeah, so someone asked, wait, Frank, what do you use, Frankie? Oh, so you use salt only. Okay, when you're,
So you can make fermented pickles, and I haven't had a whole lot of success with that. But you have to make sure you cut off the blossom end, otherwise there's enzymes in it that will continue to decay the pickle. So you have to cut off that part, which I never understood why. And when I found out, I thought that was pretty cool. Even when you freeze stuff, the freezing will still, decay will still happen. So that's why you have to blanch your vegetables. So it zaps the enzymes. Because
okay, you have to blanch them. That means dip them in boiling water for a few seconds.
and then in an ice bath to stop the cooking. And
Okay.
I didn't understand that either. And then I researched it, and it was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you learn, like, it seems difficult, but once you learn how to do it, it really does seem easy. And so we just encourage you guys to try. Yeah. Like just salt and water for making sauerkraut is so easy. Once you just, if you have a food processor, it's just real, you just chop it all up, or you can just chop it up real thin and you put it in a bowl, and you get either the wooden thing that you're supposed to use for it, or you can use a end of a, I don't know, spoon or what, something, a wooden spoon or whatever, but you mash up that cabbage until the juices come out, and then and you add some salt in there, some brine, and that that cabbage becomes sauerkraut just from its own juices and salt. That's it. You just mash and mash and mash, maybe for like 5 minutes. You just give it to, your nephew or something. Just mash that. Just keep mashing it and mashing it, or you do it and get your frustrations out on whatever president you want. And, just mash it until the juices come out, and you add the salt, or maybe you put the salt in for, anyway, it's just basically, it's very easy. And then you just put it on a counter for whatever number of weeks it is. And you just check it every once in a while, make sure there's no like pink mold growing. If there's black or gray, usually that's okay. You just wipe it away. It's okay. But usually it doesn't if you've got it covered in enough juices. We'll talk more about it. We'll have somebody come on who's an expert, okay, about this in the late summer and the fall. But just know that there are things you can do to preserve it, and it's not as hard as we might imagine.
Do you want to say something, Lisa?
I had a quick question.
No. Me?
No.
Rachel.
Rachel. Oh,
After you've mashed the cabbage in the bowl, do you put it in a closed container?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
do you have to burp it
Mason jar.
and let the gas out?
Yeah, you put it in a mason jar, and you can mash it more in the mason jar with that stick that's a fermented, like it's a wide wooden stick thing, or you can just use a wooden spoon. You don't want to use any metal for anything fermented, right? Like if you're making it's kombucha or whatever, like you don't want to use metal stuff. You just want to use the wooden. And you put it in a glass jar, you mash it and you push it all the way down until the juices cover it. And you've got the salt in there, and some people use a little glass thing or a stone on top to push it down so that the juices stay covering it. You can just get a river stone if you want. There you go. Anne's got, yeah.
So I bought this at a garage sale for $2.
Yeah. So it's just a wooden thing, like a dowel. Yeah. So
You have to keep the sauerkraut under the juice. If the sauerkraut sticks up above the juice, it's going to get moldy.
Yes, and then they have these glass weights you can buy, or like Zen said, if you have a really clean stone, rock, or some people use a Ziploc bag filled with water. Put on top to make sure that all the produce is under.
yeah.
I have a crock pot, the glass top broke, and I've never used it, but I thought, oh, would be good to ferment something in, and then you could put like just a dish in over the top and weight it down.
Yeah.
I have to try it though.
But you have to cover, you have to cover that too. You put the weight in and it goes down, and then you have to cover the top. You put a lid on it and cover it.
For not the whole time? Oh, really? I thought
You do have to burp it every
Yeah, you burp it, but you cover the lid. You don't just leave it exposed to the air because then all kinds of stuff gets in there.
Okay.
So yeah, you do cover it, but then you burp it now and then, and then you move it to the fridge once it's gotten to a certain stage of fermentation, and then
it'll last
it's
forever.
practically
In a
forever.
plastic bowl, you couldn't use it in a plastic bowl. It had to be glass or crock, right?
Yeah, you don't ferment in plastic. Yep. Yeah.
No, I don't think I'd want to.
Burping mean?
Yeah, you don't want to. So Chloe, you want to show us something? Loosen the bottom of the trench, place your spuds in, cover with soil. Everything leaves come through, cover with more soil mulch. Yes, keep doing this until the leaves die off. Yes. Yeah, Frankie, perfect directions. Yes. So you want to keep adding soil to your potatoes so that those little branches that come out make more potatoes. Don't worry, you're learning what may have happened with the potatoes that you're growing now. Yeah, you can show us. You just may not get as many potatoes because all those little leaves are leaves instead of potato roots, right? So you're going to get some potatoes, not as many as you could.
Yeah, that one I put in the pot, probably, I can't mound up too much more.
Yeah. So if you put it in a pot like that and you don't keep adding soil, then you're going to get some potatoes, but not as many as you. Yeah. It looks like a healthy potato plant though, Chloe. You want to unmute yourself? You can unmute.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so it's my first time doing potatoes, and I took them from my my kitchen, and they are totally like bushes.
I
So-
know, isn't it amazing?
It's
Well,
amazing.
yeah, but like, so I need to cover them up.
No, you need to keep
Like,
mounting
look-
soil up it at the in the pot. So when they start, the best way to do it is that you only put like 4 inches of soil in the pot to begin with, and then you keep mounding it up as they're growing. And like Zen said, what is under the soil will then turn into roots and start growing more tubers.
So in other words, next time you grow potatoes, only put 4 inches of soil in the bottom of the pot. Don't fill the whole pot up with soil.
Okay.
Only put 4 inches of soil in the bottom of the pot. Put your spud in, cover it up with 1 inch or 2 of soil. And then once it starts to sprout and you've got say 2 or 3 inches, add more soil so that just the little tippy top leaf is showing. And then wait till that grows another 2 or 3 inches and grow more soil and then like that. So then all of those little branches go into the soil and become potatoes. So now you're going to have a potato plant with roots, with potatoes. You'll have potatoes there. They're just won't be quite as many as if you added soil along the way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, enjoy the potatoes. They're going to be fun.
Yeah, so much fun. It's so much fun to eat potatoes that came out of your garden.
It's like a treasure hunt. It's great.
And so, no, it's like, I'm just going to go buy, this is a bag of organic Yukon Golds, and I bought them just to throw in my drawer to let them do this. Wait, there, to let them do this. And I can get 2 plants right now.
Yeah, you can cut that in half, and you can get one eye and one eye. You can cut that in half and grow 2 plants. Don't do what I did. I bought some beautiful potato starts at the organic grower school thing, and I left them in a paper bag for too long, and they got rotten. So you got to make sure that they get air, because I wanted them to sprout. They didn't have any little eyes, so you do have to leave them in a paper bag for a little while. But I left them in for too long. I should have planted my potatoes like a month before I did. So I waited too long. That's my biggest problem. That's why I need the structure. I need people to tell me, this is what you need to do now. This weekend,
That's
go
what
do
I'm
it.
here for.
Yes, that's what we're all here for.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
Since you have so many professionals on here, one more question. I have my onions and my garlics. What would be something after I'm harvesting the onions and garlics that would be really good to plant?
So the onions aren't going to be harvested until late summer, and you don't harvest them until the tops start to fall over. So then you could pull those out.
I'm in 8E. I'm in Las Vegas. I'm in 8E.
Oh.
So you
Yeah,
might
I
be
don't know.
earlier.
So
So I don't
I-
know what they do
You
fall
feel like-
crops like that in the warmer climates. They could probably plant broccoli and
Mhm.
lettuce.
The fall crops. So you could plant the fall crops then, which is what you're saying, broccoli, lettuce, cauliflower, kale. It's the greens and the brassicas. And on our website, on that page with links, you'll be able to see the garden planning tip thing, and that will have for your garden zone what to do each month, what you can plant each month.
Okay.
And what we're working on right now is
I love that. Thank you.
yeah, we're going to come back to our website and come back to our pages, because we're going to have all of the garden zones with all of the tasks for each month entered in to Google Calendar or / Outlook Calendar. So you'll be able to click on it and add all of those tasks that you're supposed to do each month to your calendar. Won't that be awesome?
You're amazing.
Yeah, so
You're
that
so
will
amazing.
remind
I'm
you
so appreciative.
what you're supposed to do when. So that's coming
you.
up. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and Chloe, Frankie says you can add a wall with paper bags to support with sticks around your pot, and then you can add in more soil. So you can keep adding to it. You can add more soil to those pots.
Oh my God, Frankie's so smart.
She's so smart. Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Like you
Okay,
can
I'm
like
gonna
cut a
work on
paper
it.
bag and get some sticks, right? And put the sticks in, and then put the paper bag on the inside, and then you can add more soil to that. And you don't have to cover the whole potato plant, but you can definitely add more in. Yeah, you can get more potato plants out.
Okay. I'm gonna
Yep.
do that. Thank you so much.
That's great. And then and Frankie's also saying anything with deep roots can go in after onions and garlic. So maybe your carrots or your beets would be good. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna do
And-
beets.
Yeah, love beets. Those are good for preserving too. You can make beet kvass. You can,
I made beet,
boil them.
I dehydrated it and made beet powder that I put in my smoothies.
Oh, that's great. Beet
that's a
powder
good
is
idea.
wonderful for oxygenating your blood. If you have a runner in your family, they want to have beet juice before they run. They will perform better. If that is wonderful for getting.
I also have a lot of garlic that is probably coming to the end of its life. So one task I will be doing is dehydrating all that and making garlic powder.
Can't wait. That's great. Yep.
Do you
Getting
ever
a dehydrator.
dehydrate tomatoes, Ian? A gardener had some her dehydrated tomatoes. She sliced them. I was like in heaven. I just sat there and couldn't eat. I couldn't get enough of these.
Oh,
Really?
another thing, and that just reminded me, another thing that I did last year when Michelle and I were peeling all those thawed out tomatoes, we took all the skins and we dehydrated them, and I turned that into powder, and I had a big mason jar of powder. When I make soups or stews or anything, I was throwing tomato powder in, so none of it went to waste.
That's awesome. You
Yeah.
skin the tomatoes before you canned them. Is that it? And then you
Right.
use the tomato. Wow, that's a lot of work, but okay, yeah. So
What
you want to buddy up, ladies. You want to find a gardening buddy near you so that you can do this with somebody else, because it's be so
Well,
much better.
yes, my girlfriend and I talk to each other and we'll say, okay, what are we doing this weekend? And we'll be like, okay, we gotta do this, this, this. Like we went and bought bushels of apples and made jars and jars of applesauce. It's the best applesauce I've ever eaten. And I just opened a jar of tomato sauce last week that was 2 years old from 2020. And I popped it open and smelled it, and it smelled like such fresh tomatoes. It was amazing.
Great. All right. Well, we could talk all night, but it's 7:40,
Good.
and you're all wonderful. It's great to connect with all of
Yeah,
this.
this was fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank
It
you,
was
Chloe, for
fun.
showing us your potatoes.
And I knew you guys would love Megan. I've gone to her, see her live in her teaching, and she's just so dynamic, no nonsense, no frills. This is how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
On
her
the,
gardening
and
was
on the
amazing.
cheap.
Really great. All right. And also, if you guys ever have any feedback about how we can make these calls better, people that you want to have on the calls, if anything that you want to have, this is really kind of like the pilot program of this neighborhood food network. And we also, I have to say one more time, if you want to have a neighborhood food network in your neighborhood, the whole idea is not just that we're connecting online and talking, it's that you go and meet your neighbors and invite them to start being a part of this neighborhood food network on your street. And we have the first meeting outline up on our website under resources. And we have a little calling card if you want to leave a calling card with your neighbors. If you donate anywhere between $3 or $10 a month just to support this program, and we'll customize a calling card for you and give you a downloadable thing. You just go to Avery, she'll tell you what to buy, and you'll be able to print out basically little business cards that I'm just calling calling cards, that so people, you can leave them at your neighbors under their doormat. We're supposed to tell you it's not legal to leave it in their mailbox, but you do what you want to do. So you can, give these out to your neighbors, and you can connect with them and start meeting your neighbors and start growing food together. And really, if you get 10% of the people on your street this year, I think that's a win. And then if you double next year after you give out some free food to your neighbors, that's a win, right? So just keep it manageable in your mind. You don't have to get 100% of your people the first year, but just start meeting your neighbors and start exchanging resources.
I was selling, oh, sorry.
Too, because I do a yard share. I live in the city, but I have a big yard. And so really there's 3 people now, and I'm the least of the gardeners. So I'm the one that owns the home. But anyway, so you can also have it be in a yard.
Yes. Yep. Your front yard, your backyard. It could be at a community church that's on your street. We're trying to encourage it to stay on your street so that people are, meeting and connecting on your street. And so go to the website and look at, how to get started, and, tips for getting started, and the first meeting. And we have invitations that you can print out and give out as well. And we're working on a flyer right now that will be more of an explanation rather than just an invitation, a flyer that you can print out as well, so that it'll be more clear to people what the program is. But the real thing is just for you to get out and meet your neighbors, and you to explain what you're doing. We are getting together on our street to create food security, right, for our neighbors on our street.
And that is something everybody can agree on when I mention that. And they're
like, we need food
security.
Yeah. Me too.
And they're like, well, I don't have much of a yard. And I did talk to one woman, and she goes, well, she had some health issues. And she said, well, I can't really garden, but you can use my backyard if you want.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what you do? You garden in her backyard?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm kind of, I walk around the neighborhood anytime anybody's outside. I engage them in conversation. I make it a point now, whenever I'm outside and I see people, I always just say hello. And I'm trying to, let's make the world a better place. Let's start saying hello.
But the next person that you meet, Anne, that says, I would love to garden, but I don't have the space, you can say, ding, I'm going to be the garden fairy and bring you guys together.
So I did talk to my neighbor about using the empty field behind my yard, and about contact. I found out the city owns it. Well, he said, absolutely not. He said, there's people coming into this field that I don't want. He's worried about, I don't live in the best part of Milwaukee. And he was like super worried about not some unsavory people coming into this garden. And I have to take that into account. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that.
Okay. Well, that just means no for not right now. And you've got your hands full with your garden, and your neighbor who's just offered their garden. So, one step at a time, right? And maybe this guy will see what good you're doing down the road, and maybe he'll be begging you to put a garden into.
Well, I did talk him into putting a garden in, so he is putting a garden in.
Oh, okay. Look, there you go. So see, people are growing food. You're doing awesome, Anne. You're doing amazing. If anybody else wants support with having meetings and starting a neighborhood food network on your street, Anne or I will talk to you at any time. Okay. So send us an email, and I would just urge you, just print out that flyer, pick a day when you're going to get together, and invite your neighbors. Go door to door and invite them, and see what happens. If nobody shows up, whatever. If one person shows up, awesome. I had one person show up, right? I had 4 people interested out of 40 homes. One person showed up, but I've met 3 of my other neighbors since then. 2 of them have alpacas. One's an artist. Like, I'm just starting to meet more people. They want to create a little neighborhood food network stand, so we can put free food, zucchini and stuff on our street with a little stand to give away food. I'm excited. Like, things are starting to happen, right? So, just try it, and then come back next week and tell us about it. Okay. Tell us who
and
did.
We'll send out an email when we get this flyer done, so you can download that. And
yeah.
A hilarious thing for city gardeners is if you have any hints about turkeys. We have a total turkey invasion in our city. And they
Well,
like,
we'll have to do a show just on pests, how to keep pests away. But
Actually, I
the
had,
number one thing I would say for pests is to get a dog. They just. keep
and
them
as Will said last week, grow enough to share, but some people can't do that. I had a mama turkey with 2 babies in my garden last year, and I just kind of sat there and watched them. And the next day I came out and there were a couple plants that had been taken, and I was like, oh, well, but the little baby turkeys were too cute.
Yeah.
no, they ate almost all the chard, the turkeys.
Yeah.
We don't have a, a huge amount of food yet. But
Well, thank you all. And thank you, Anne, for the comment about doing a different kind of parade now. I really appreciate that because, yeah, that time for the parades and 4th of July has kind of come and gone. It was super fun and beautiful when it happened, right? But now we're doing it. Now we've got a parade of gardeners. Yay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We appreciate you all.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.